What's up everyone? It's Rayvon from Love Lola. Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am just so happy to have you here with me. Make sure that you take a moment to look down below in the description box because that's where you're going to find a link to where you can purchase the pattern. I'm going to have links to where I purchase my materials, my vinyls, my zippers, my hardware. If I'm using it, you're going to have a link to where you can find it. Today, we're going to be making Alright, so at this point I have cut and interfaced all of my pieces. Now let me show you what I'm going to be doing really quick for my pieces that we're going to be adding our straps to. So I've interfaced with SewFuse. And now I want to get some stabilizer added where I'm going to be getting these straps attached. You can use foam like in the instructions. I personally don't really care for foam that much. So instead of using foam, what I'm going to be doing is adding another layer of SewFuse Plus to get this going. And I'm also going to be adding a little bit of Peltex as a stabilizer because I want some stabilizing going on underneath where I'm going to be getting those straps attached, not just interfacing. So what I have done is I've added, okay, first of all, I've made a couple of modifications. So let me go over that just to be very transparent. Okay, so I'm going to be using 2-inch webbing for my straps that I will be folding in half to make 1 inch. Okay, so with that being said, I wanted my hardware to be 2 inches wide because I'm going to have my handle that's 1 inch and then my strap that's 1 inch. So because of that, I needed to make my piece, this piece, which is originally 1.5 inches wide, I needed to make it 2 inches wide. So all I did was trace this on a piece of paper. Once I traced it, I knew that that point was my midpoint. Then I took a ruler and I measured out, I wanted to add 1/2 inch, so that's 1/4 inch on each side. So I just simply found that point and measured out 1/4 inch on both sides. And then I took this piece and I just scooted it over to that mark and traced a new outline for the left side. And did the same thing for the right side. Now I know I wanted to keep this midpoint as my midpoint, and I didn't want to make this go any longer. So all I did was place that at the midpoint and then drew a new line till it met up with that on both sides. Okay. And then I just cut out my new piece and it is now 2 inches wide so that I can put my 1 inch handle and 1 inch strap, okay? That's just what I did. You don't have to do that. You can keep it the same. So once I did that, I used my pattern piece to mark the placement on my 2 exterior pieces. And the way I did that was I just took this and I folded it at the top of that line. And then I lined up the bottom corner. And then made a mark on my inside of my exterior piece where this is going to be added, okay? Then I added a 1/4 inch on either side because I increased mine. I did that on all 4 pieces, and then from there, I measured up and down 2.5 inches, which is a little more than what I needed, but you know, just a little extra. And I cut that in my Peltex stabilizer material. Then I centered that and scooted it up above that line by about a 1/4 inch because I want to go past the line that I'm going to be placing it, right? There. And then I covered it with interfacing. And got it interfaced. I'm going to go and get that interfaced on really quick. And while I'm over there, I'm actually going to add another whole layer of SewFuse Plus because like I said, I didn't want to use foam for this bag, but I want a little bit more structure than just one interfacing. So I've already interfaced it once. I'm adding my stabilizer, and now I'm going to add an entire new layer of interfacing, and I think that's going to give me the feel that I'm looking for. Okay, now let me say this really quick because y'all know I always try to be transparent. Now, you can't really see it, but if you look really, really hard, you can see the indentation of where I added that Peltex on the back and then fused on top of it. So what I would recommend, you really can't see it, but I don't know. It depends on the material that you use. You may be able to see it. So I think what I would recommend is go ahead, if you're going to use foam, go ahead and attach your foam like you normally would, and then have that be used as your stabilizer. And then after you attach the foam, then go and get these pieces put on so that when you connect it to your exterior piece, it will have that foam backing to stabilize this material, okay? Another option is to do all of your interfacing first and then take that Peltex and just use a piece of double-sided tape to press it against the back so that it stays in place. And then you don't have to interface over it. And then when you go and get this attached, it will connect to it. You know, it doesn't, the Peltex stabilizer doesn't need to be fused on. It can just be connected with double-sided tape or something, and then once you sew it on, that'll be the permanent connection. So those are some options for you. So what I'm going to do really quick is I'm going to go over how I did these pieces, but first I want to do the zipper just because we're going to be doing a little bit of edge coat painting, and I want to make sure that we have enough time for all of the edge paint to dry, you know, all of the layers before we get to that point on the bag. So let's do that first, and then we'll go back to that. Okay, so with this, we see that we have our piece to cut out our zipper piece, and then we have this piece for our interfacing. This is what I did because I didn't feel like cutting out this little thin piece of interfacing. Like, I just don't have time. What I did was I cut out my zipper pieces and I interfaced them. So I cut these out just like this. I had 2 pieces like this and I interfaced them. Then I took one of those pieces and I took this, laid it on top, and I drew out the piece that I needed to cut out. Once I did that, I grabbed my ruler, lined it up, and made the cuts. Now I'm going to do the other side. Okay, so let's get our zipper worked on. As you can see, I have placed double-sided tape along the wrong side of both of our zipper pieces. I'm using this really great 1/8 inch double-sided tape from Weft & Wharf. I love it for applying zippers because if you have an issue with your needles getting gunky, it's thin enough to where generally you will not, your needle doesn't even have to go through it. So I've got my double-sided tape on both pieces and I'm going to go ahead and remove it off of one. All right, and what we want to do is take this and we're going to place it on top of our zipper. Now you can take the zipper and place it on here and it's situated. I just prefer to keep my zipper facing up and then placing this on top. So whatever works for you. I'm going to start with my two corners, making sure that my zipper is centered on this piece that's cut out. I'm going to make sure it's pulled a little taut and then do the same thing on the other side. And now I'm going to work my way in. Let's get these pulls in. Yeah, if I didn't mention it, go ahead and get your pulls on, going towards the center. All right. Once my sides are attached, I'm going to just go and situate this so that it's the same amount of zippers showing on both sides. I'm going to move my zippers down to the edge because that's the part I least care about it not being straight. You know what I mean? Once I've got that attached, I'm going to flip it over and trim down my zipper. I didn't do that earlier. You could have done it when you first cut your zipper. I didn't because I just didn't. I don't know. All right, and once we have that on, we're going to go ahead and get the other side attached. So I'm going to flip that over, take the backing of the double-sided tape off, and just place it on top, matching it as best as I can. And now the first thing I'm going to do is go and sew around this at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance around the outer perimeter. I'm going to start either here or here because that part of the zipper is not going to show, so you can backstitch. When you get to that corner, just pivot, raise your foot and do a nice pivot, and you're good to go. Okay, and now I'm gonna go and get my zipper foot put on so that I can sew around the perimeter of the zipper. Okay, now look, I'm not even gonna lie. The bottom of my zipper is not lined up exactly. You know, I cut everything by hand, and it just is what it is. And right now, when I sew this, it's not, do you see that? It's not down the middle. So what I'm gonna have to do is wind up cutting this bottom piece to make it wider for the whole zipper to be underneath it, if that makes sense. So you can do it two ways. I can either get my ruler and just draw down a little bit more and cut it out, or I can go ahead and do my top stitch first, because this side is all that really matters. And then once I've finished the top stitch, I'll be able to see how much needs to be cut. But I think it'd be easier to do it first. So that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm just gonna go down far enough to where the zipper is showing. All right, so now I'm gonna go and I'm gonna sew around the inside zipper part. I'm gonna leave my thread long at the beginning and end so I can pull it through the bottom and tie it, as opposed to back stitching, okay? Okay, so I have sewn around my zipper. Now, you can see what I was talking about before. My placement was a little off, so along the bottom, it wasn't cut enough, so I cut a little bit extra so that it would fit, so that it wouldn't be in the way of the zipper when it opened. And along the top, you can see that it didn't even, along the top, you can see that it didn't quite catch the zipper. See that? I'm not happy about it, but I'm not too concerned, just because it is already attached along the outer edge, so it's not going to come off. But I will be applying, I'm either going to put double-sided tape right there to hold it on, or I'm going to apply some cement glue, like a permanent adhesive, along that part where it is not attached. I'm not concerned about the aesthetic of it, because it's not going to show from the top. I just want to make sure that it's going to be, you know, it's going to last. So I'll get that connected some way. Okay, outside of that, what you want to do now is check out the edges and make sure that everything is aligned. If it's not aligned perfectly, then use the top piece as your guide to trim off whatever's a little bit off. So you can see, like right here, I don't know if you can see it or not. There's a little bit of extra of the bottom showing. So I'm going to use my top as a guide to trim that down so that it matches. Top is the guide, the top is the guide. All right, now once you've gotten everything matched up to your liking, okay, now we're gonna be applying our edge coat. You don't need to apply along this area because that's gonna be attached to your bag. So we're focusing on where that curve starts back to where the curve ends on both ends. I'm gonna be using Mojo Sews because I absolutely love their edge paint. You've got some great colors. I'm gonna be using black today. There's a base, a top, and there's a basic color and the top coat. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this applied. I'm gonna be doing 2 coats of the base and 2 coats of the top. But I'm only gonna do 1 coat of the base and 1 coat of the top right now and let it dry, and then I'll be putting, no. Right now I'm gonna do 1 coat of the base, let it dry, then I'll do a 2nd coat of the base, let it dry, then I'll add my top coat, let it dry, and if I need to, I add 1 more. That's why I wanted to do this first so we can have time to do all that while we're doing the bag. All right, let me get that handled. Okay, so I edge paint my zipper and I went ahead and put a little edge paint along the piece that goes along the bottom of the exterior pieces as well. Okay, so now to our little strap suspension anchor piece. Use your template to mark where you're going to be placing your holes. Once you get those marked, go ahead and get the holes punched out. After that, put a piece of double-sided tape along the back. And you're going to be running your strap adjuster running it through your strap adjuster. Now once you get it through, this tape is so sticky, you just need to align those holes up. Okay, there's one. And there's the other. Now, if they happen to be a little bit off, it's fine, because you can always punch through it from the front. The main thing you want to make sure right now is that the back piece is not showing from the front. This piece that bended over, that folded over, make sure you can't see that from the front. And then if your holes are off a little bit, it's no big deal. You can always repunch it from the front view, because we're going to be repunching it anyway on the bag. Okay, so now grab your piece, and you're going to use your panel piece that we used earlier. Okay, and all I did was fold it right along that line. Then I aligned the bottom and the side with the pattern. And what you can do is either grab a marker and mark where that is, or I'm just going to use it as a guide. Well, first I'm going to grab some double-sided tape and place it along this piece. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I've got this lined up with the pattern piece, and now I'm going to use it as a guide for this. So I'm going to line this up. Once it's lined up, I'm going to push my hardware against the bag, and then just move this paper out of the way. My tape got on it, but it's fine. Okay, there we go, and then just attach that to the panel. Okay, now once I've got that on, I'm going to do that to all four. And now I'm going to head over to my machine and get those attached. And I am using my zipper foot. When we get it added, we're going to start right along the bottom of the buckle. If you would like to, you can leave your thread long so that you can pull it through the back and tie it so that there's no back stitching on your bag. Take your time on this part. If you need to crank it hand, stitch by stitch at some areas, then do that, because you don't want to, this is going to be a focal point of your bag, so you don't want any, weird stitching going on. So take your time and do it right so you don't regret it later. Okay, so grab your little accent piece for the main panel. You should have marked the midpoints on your main panels and also on this piece. So go ahead and line up that midpoint. I've placed double-sided tape on the back of there. Okay, line that up. And get it pressed on. I've gone ahead and done it to both of my pieces, and now I'm gonna head over to, well, now I'm gonna go ahead and get this sewn on at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm gonna start at the bottom so that I can back stitch because it won't show, you know. Grab one of your main panels and your bottom piece, and grab a ruler and make a mark at 3/8 of an inch from each corner. So 3/8 of an inch here, 3/8 of an inch here, here, and here. Now we're going to place our bottom panel piece so that it is right side facing down. Our main panel is right side facing up, so the right sides are touching each other. Line it up by your mid piece. And now we're going to go and get this attached, and we're going to be starting and stopping. We're attaching this at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and we're starting and stopping at those marks that we just made. Okay, now once we have that attached, we're going to snip right there at that 3/8 inch mark up to the thread. We're not going to actually cut the thread, okay? Just get close as you can without cutting it. Okay? Now you want to lay it so that your seam allowance is going behind your bottom. And go ahead and top stitch on that bottom panel, and you're only top stitching from where that okay, and now we're going to repeat the same thing to the other side. Panel is facing up, bottom is facing down, right sides are touching. Okay, so once you've got your bottom attached and top stitched, go ahead and get your holes poked back through your main panel, okay? So just use the holes that are already there to poke a new hole that's going to go through your main panel. And then get your rivets put through. And then get them set. Okay, once you have your rivets set, this is the time if you would like to get a name tag or anything added, go ahead and do that. I've got my Lola tag on one side, and on the back side I am going to be adding my custom made tag. I put it on pretty much all of my bags because I'm in love with it. It's available on my website if you like it. Yeah, so what I did to get where I wanted to put it is I used the ruler because you want everything to be straight, and I lined the ruler up with my stitch right here, and I went up 2.5 inches from this stitch, and then I used my ruler to find the midpoint and got it marked. And then I did the same thing for the opposite end for this piece. All right, perfect. Okay, moving forward, we've got our tags put on, you know, everything's gravy. We're gonna place our side seams together, our front and back panel. I'm sorry. We're gonna make some side seams. So get your sides pinned together. and we're gonna go and sew down both sides. Okay, so this was the moment that I decided that I did not like the way that my bag felt. You know, because like I said, I use cotton. I haven't used cotton in years, so I forgot how lightweight it is, and I don't like the way it feels. So I decided at this point to go and add foam. Now we're gonna get this connected. Now we're gonna get this connected on the sides at 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so now what you want to do, that you've got your sides attached, is take your bottom and just pull it across tautly. That's the word, right? Just pull it across really tight and pin it together. And you're going to see where you had that stitch that you did first before your top stitch, where you connected the bottom panel to the front and back panels. You can see that stitch. You have to kind of move the seam allowance out of the way, but it's there. And what you're going to do now is you're basically going to be attaching this, your front and back main panels, to your bottom piece, and you're going to start and stop stitching at that other stitch that you stopped and started at. Or if you kept going, you just move the seam out of the way now. Okay? So from the point where we stopped that initial stitch, we're now stitching from that side to the other. And we're going to do that to both sides. Okay, so now let's grab our zipper piece. Go ahead and find the midpoint of it, whatever you need to do to find that midpoint. And you should already have the midpoint of your bag marked as well. Let's go ahead and get those lined up. And the correct side of our panel, so the top side of our zipper panel and the correct side of our outer panels are touching. We're going to attach them and then go and get them basted on at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And we're basting on from where the top, that little curve starts. And I'm going to go ahead and completely unzip it because it's just going to make it easier. Once you've got it attached, you're going to baste it on at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and I'm going to go ahead and baste on both sides. Okay, so we're about to work on our lining, so go ahead and get that done. You can follow the instructions as she has them in the pattern, or you can do them however you like. I have attached a video on adding a slip pocket and a zipper pocket. I'm not going to be showing it just for the sake of time and data on my camera, but just whenever you do your zip pocket, make sure whenever you do your zip pocket, make sure that you leave your pocket open in the back, because we're going to be doing some turning and stuff through it later. This is a tip that I always do whenever I'm turning a bag or doing anything with my inner zipper pocket. I always increase the size to as big as I can get it, or as big as I feel like I need it. So if a zipper is smaller than what you think you feel like working with in the materials of your bag, you can make it bigger. It's your bag. Do what you want to do. Also, what I always do is I don't sew down the sides all of the way. Because when I'm pulling the bag through, when it's sewn all the way down the side, I feel like it's harder to kind of snake the bag through. I only sew down about 1 inch past the zipper, 1 inch or 2. And that way, when I am pulling my bag through, you see when you have that just a little short area, it's easier to work it through than if you were trying to get it through your entire zipper that's closed. Does that make sense? So that's what I do, and when I finish, I go back and sew around the entire thing. So yeah, get your lining ready, and then once you have your pockets done, you can go ahead and get it attached just like we did the exterior. I'm not going to record it. If you need to hit rewind, go ahead and rewind it and follow the same steps. I will say this time, when you place your bottom along there, you're going to be sewing from the edge where that goes in, right there, that little box. Sew from that edge all the way to the other edge instead of starting and stopping 3/8 of an inch in. And then once you sew it, then you're going to go and just make a clip at 3/8 of an inch in. Okay? Got it? Good. Let's get it. Sewing this at 3/8 of an inch. Alrighty, now when you sew your lining, you want to attach the bottom to your back panel and then sew your sides together, but she doesn't want you to connect your bottom to your front panel yet. We're gonna do that later, okay? I started it before I remembered, so that's why I have a little bit going on right there. But do not connect your bottom piece to your front panel yet. It should only be the back piece connected and the sides sewn together. Okay, now let's grab our exterior, and we are going to be turning it right side out. All right, nice. Very nice. Okay, now we are going to be placing our bag, the exterior inside of our lining. I like my zipper to be on the back of my bag, so that's the side that I'm going to have touching the back of my exterior. Place that inside. And my zipper isn't zipped all the way. So match up your bag. Find your center point along the midpoint. Okay, so we got our front center right there. I'm going to pin it. And then my back center point, I'm going to pin it. And my side, matching up the side on the lining and the exterior, pin it. Same on the other side. Okay, and now I'm going to go and sew around the entire top at 1/4 of an inch. Yeah. Okay, now we need to pull the lining over the top of the bag. So now we're going to reach through the zipper of the lining and reach for the bottom. Now we're going to pull this bottom through the zipper, and we're going to close the bottom. So just line up your bottom like we did before. And this is the bottom part of the bag. We're attaching the bottom panel to the back main panel. Okay, and we're going to sew that at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, straight across. From here, you're going to do like before. You're going to add that little clip, 3/8 of an inch in from each side. And now we're going to sew the sides closed like we did before. starting and ending at that mark that we snipped. Okay, once you've got that done, you can just stuff that down back into the zipper pocket. We're not going to close it yet, though, so give it a second. Right now we're going to focus on the top of the bag. And we're going to get that seam at the very top, smooth it out as best as we can. I'm going to tuck my zippers in for now and put a few clamps along the inside. Along the sides right here, just to keep everything aligned. All right. I'm gonna unzip this. Make sure that you have pulled down your lining as tight as you can so that it will catch on this top stitch really well. Okay, now we're gonna go and top stitch along our main panel all the way around, okay? Starting and stopping on the side. Okay, once we have that top stitch done, we want to measure down 2 3/4 of an inch on the sides and make our mark. We're going to be placing a rivet right there. So 1, 2 3/4. Now what you want to do is make a hole right there in that seam allowance at that mark, but you're only going to be putting the hole through your exterior fabric first. Okay, so the steps want you to, once you make that hole, place your double cap rivet through it and just reach in through the hole that's still open on your pocket and guide that rivet through. And then from there, once you have your rivet in, you would then guide that same rivet through the side seam of your lining in the same position, okay? That's what we need to do. I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be lazy and I'm just gonna stick a hole through the whole thing. But do it the way the instructions say to do it. Oh God, help me. Ugh. I'm okay. Oh. Okay, good stuff. Sigh. All right, before you do that, go ahead and add a rivet to your zipper. I'm just going to be punching it right in the middle of that area. Now I'm going to poke through that hole and through the hole that I just made on my bag all the way through. I need to get a handheld hole press because all I have is that machine, and I mean the table press, you know, and it just gets really difficult when you're trying to get in specific spots, like on this bag. I'm really over it, so I think it's time I invested in a handheld one. If y'all have a good recommendation, let me know. Here for it. Alright, that one's on. And I'm going to repeat the same thing to the other side. Go ahead and get a hole pressed in here. There might be a marking on the pattern piece. I'm just kind of eyeballing it because I don't think it's that serious. Find my mark. Making sure that my lining seam is matched up with that. Yep, got it. Again, please follow the instructions. Don't do what I did. If you do, I don't take responsibility if it doesn't go right. Okay. I'm gonna get that set really quick. Okay, friends, let's get our strap sewn. I will be using webbing for my handle. I was gonna use it for my handle and my strap, but this webbing is pretty thick. And once I fold it, it becomes really stiff, which is great for the handle, but for the strap, it was too stiff to use as a strap. So I'm gonna use it as my handle, and then for my strap, I'm gonna be using black material. So go ahead and get your straps and your handles cut out. Like I said, I modified mine to be 2 inches wide, so I'm using my 2-inch webbing, and I'm gonna fold it in half to make it 1 inch. And then I made my strap I cut it 4 inches wide, and I'm gonna fold it like a normal strap to make it be 1 inch. I've drawn a line down the middle of my strap the long way, and now I'm gonna just fold it in twice. Fold to the middle, not quite to the line, almost to the line. You don't want to fold it all the way to the line because it'll do a little buckling and twisting that we hate. So give it a little wiggle room. All right, and I'm gonna sew around the entire thing at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, and my handle, I'm going to be just fold it. Now it is two-toned. I think that I like the way the white looks next to the bag, so that's the side I'm gonna be using. So I'm just gonna fold it in half. Again, this webbing is pretty thick, so use a little bit of force. I'm going to repeat that same thing to make my other strap and my other handle. Same process. Alrighty, once you have your straps made, you can go ahead and get your strap ends put on. Now look, I know it's a lot of strap ends. These are available on my website if you like them. These are 1 inch. I also have 3/4 inch and 1.5 inch. But if you don't want to use all of these, this is 8 strap ends. You can just leave your edges exposed. I do recommend burning your edges if you're using webbing. And then to make it look professional, I always love to put a little bit of edge coat on the bottom. But anyway, if you are going to be using hardware, get those installed. And then go ahead and make your marks on your straps and your handles. You need to measure in, the first hole you're going to make is going to be at 3/4 of an inch. The second hole is going to be at 2 3/4 of an inch. Once you have those made, we can go ahead and get these put on. And it's going on the top part of your adjuster. So I'm going to slide it through. I'm going to slide it through both straps. Repeat the same thing to the other side. Y'all, I don't know if you noticed, but this print is Saints. The Saints football team. I'm from Louisiana, so I am absolutely a Saints fan. And I just thought this bag would be perfect for me to finally make myself a bag using that material. Okay, so this is going to be on the inside. I'm going to grab my handle now. I mean my strap. And do the same thing. Make sure you don't twist it. This is really cute. I like this. Different, different. I always love different. Y'all, that's it. Thank you so much for joining me for this video today. You can find me on all of the social media platforms. And I'll also go ahead and add all of that stuff in my, I'll add a link to all of that stuff in the video description box as well. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.